said there's nobody there. So I said, can you, anyway, please let you in. Okay, do you mind going there again and asking? And I will start running. You're participating now, okay? So we'll do the speed dating, okay? So, yes, this works, okay. Good morning, everybody. I hope you're okay with starting the morning with a little bit of speed dating. Oh, yeah, that's what I want, that when I say something, that deadening silence drops in the room. Silence and looks filled with horror. That's the idea I was going for. No, so basically what I'm going to ask you is as following. I will ask you to find one person. You will need to stand up. So I will want you spread out throughout the room. So you will find one person. I will give you a question. You will speak for 1 minute about that question. You will answer it, and then your partner is going to answer that same question. I'm going to then raise a change of partners, and then you're going to find somebody else to talk with, and you're going to get a second question. In the third round, you're going to get the third question, etc. So each time you will be speaking for 1 minute, and I do hope you will find the activity somewhat entertaining. Okay, that's the kind of goal we're going for. So without further ado, I would like to ask you to stand up and find yourself a partner to talk with for the first round of speed dating. Yes, please. We don't need to call it dating. We can just call it getting to know each other. And I will now set the timer. Yes. So I'll be walking around with this just so that you can see how much time you have left. Okay, I'm happy that you're already talking, but here comes the first question. Ladies, gentlemen, the first question. What is something that made you laugh since you arrived to this forum? Talk to each other. What is something that made you laugh since you arrived to this forum? Each of you has 1 minute to respond to that question. What is something that made you laugh since you arrived? Can you run the same activity with her, just you and her? Yeah. Except that she didn't interact with the forum? It could be something about Portugal. It could be something about the event itself. Okay, your time is slowly running up, so wrap up your laughing stories. And the time is up. Can you please find yourself another partner? Please find yourself another partner. Okay. If I could have your attention for the second question. The second question is kind of complex. So, but we will wait for them to finish getting to know each other. Just kidding, just kidding. So, if you could change anything about the way that you were raised, what would that be? About the way you were raised by your family, yeah. dropping you into the next circle, okay? So next round you'll be a part of it. They're answering questions. We're doing like speed dating type of thing.
Oh.
Yes. They're asking now a question. If there is one thing that you could change about the way you were raised, what would it be? Okay, thank you everybody. Please wrap up the stories. Okay, thank you. Now, Rosita, if you could join me here, Said is going to enter the game. Yeah, just to make sure that we are even number. So please, everybody find somebody to talk with. Find yourself a partner. Thanks so much. I was getting into it. I know. Okay. Here, this one, you can see the question. I will do the timer.
Hi, everyone. Ready for the next round and the next question? What would constitute a perfect day for you? What would constitute a perfect day for you? In your life. Day. Day.
It's okay, they're
Getting excited.
I guess for me, like, perfect day for me, a day where a day with friends and just enjoy everything. I didn't think of the agenda for tomorrow. That's really the perfect day. What you said in the form, because I like coffee and love sports. So a day with spirituality, exercise, nutrition, and makes me calm. Do you know what I mean? I love, for me, because you start the day off in the morning, perfect day, or new ideas, or looking out ways that you can just what did you do to make the world a better place?
Okay, everybody, thank you so much. You now find yourself somebody new. Okay, you're changing. Make sure you're speaking with somebody you didn't speak with yet. Or you can speak with somebody you already spoke with if you didn't yet mix up. Yes, please. Omar is around the pin. Perfect, thank you so much. Okay, if I could have your attention, here comes the next question. The next question is, what is the best advice you were ever given? So, what is the best advice that you were ever given? Okay, the time is running out. I'm happy that they're talking. Okay, it's time for you to select somebody new to talk to, or somebody that you already spoke with. Come on, you can do it. I think I might have to explain this just to make sure that I. Okay, do we have the pairings? You can stay together if you want to, but you will just get the second question, okay? So here it comes. If you were the president of a single issue political party, what issue would it be? So a political party that is fighting for changing just one thing. What one thing would it be that you would be fighting to change? I know, I'm sorry. Time is running. Yeah. Okay, so if I could kindly like to ask you to change your partners again. Yes, you can. Okay, can you please change your partners again? Do we have new teams? Do we have new teams? Yeah, so yeah, basically just kind of interact with them. Okay, perfect. So we have a new question. The question is focused mostly on the forum itself, what we're doing here. So this forum is nearly finished. What do you still hope to do, or who do you still wish to talk with? It's a networking question. It's a kind of strategic question. I'm sorry? What do you still hope to do? Who do you still wish to talk with? I love the fact that you're not disturbed by musical interludes. That's a good sign. Okay, and for the final round, so just one more round, you need to find just one more person. In case you already spoke to everybody, feel free to stay with somebody that you already spoke with. Okay, so do we have you pairing up? Yes, perfect. Okay, so here comes the final question. If you were to organize a political education program for new Europeans, what topics would this program include? So, if you were to organize a political education program for new Europeans, what topics would it include? Political education, civic education, depends how you want to look at it. Okay, I would kindly like to ask you to take your seats. And please, when you take your seats, have your microphones nearby on your tables, because I would like to hear a little bit about some of the things you discussed. Okay, so can I hear from somebody who wishes to volunteer what type of issues you would include in a political education program? Please grab a microphone.
Yes, thank you. As you mentioned, new Europeans, I understood those who came new to Europe. Yeah? So I think that one of the most important thing is in educational program is to teach them really basic political education.
Mm-hmm.
And that gives you an example. I noticed in my discussions and even in my Facebook and with the discussions, all these people who comes, for example, to Europe, they will automatically not vote for right-wing and for conservatives because they knew that they are going to implement laws against them. But at the end, if you discuss with them their ideas and their minds, you will find that mostly of them, they are particularly conservative or a right-wing thinking people. So I think it's very important to educate what does it mean being left of the middle, right of the middle, ecological green, nationalist. I think that there is not really a thing of things. And that's why, for example, they would be glad, many Iraqis, if Trump will win the elections, because he would make a war against Iran in Iraq, and that's why he's the right choice. Not thinking about that maybe his whole political of the climate crisis and the America first and the peace in the world would be against that. And that's why I think it's very important if we make this political education to make a basic education in this way.
Thank you. So I also like the element about the ideology where you talk about the European context, but also the implications for geopolitical global element of politics. So I think that's very useful. Please, second point. And then your colleagues, so you can just pass on the mic to yourselves.
Yes, we are actually designing a political program for young refugees, migrants and asylum seekers. We just finished the process, and I was just talking to Elise about the topics we included. We started first by including a theoretical framework that they need to have a critical way of thinking and critiquing the system that we are operating in. So that was an anti-colonial perspective on migration, then human rights system and instruments, and then democracy and political participation. And after that, we talk a lot about the different tools for political participation, whether campaigning or advocacy on the European level, the structure of the European Union, etc. I would just wanted to highlight something that I think many people that we are working with, especially young people, have like a very progressive stand, and many of them are activists in the sense that we actually learn a lot about politics from them because they have been engaged a lot in human rights activism and in political activism in their home countries. So they would be on the opposite side of what a conventional conservative would look like.
I will talk to you later. I would really like to receive that kind of draft or the outline of the educational program. I'm very interested in learning about it. Would you be so kind to pass the mic to your colleague? Thank you.
Sorry, certainly. Can I just say I completely agree with what my two colleagues have said before. I come from the United Kingdom, and I'm a member of Parliament.
Thank you for
the
joining
past
us here.
11 years, and I've got to leave early because I've got to go back and do an interview on TV. But I think it's the point about how do you do it. So I came to the United Kingdom at the age of 6, did not speak a word of English. My father was an imam in my district where my former constituent sits over there, which I didn't realize I was going to see him here today. So he was at the same mosque where my father was the priest. So the way I see it, from coming to the United Kingdom, not speaking a word of English, to being a member of Parliament, and then being the former British ambassador for religious freedom, and also being a conservative, for me, it's about education. If you give the children, our youngsters, the right education and to get involved in the democratic process. So the United Kingdom has now introduced a compulsory element on citizenship of British values. They're not just British values, they're universal values of democracy, rule of law, respect, tolerance. Because unless you're part of the system, you're not going to engage it. And I think the point that was meant yesterday in the book's storytelling that we had from Galia was about language. Getting people, when they come into the country, every skill set to get the language, then they can fully integrate, understand what they can do, and vote for whoever they want, but be part of the process.
So if I'm hearing correctly, you're talking basically about the civic education, political education program that actually covers everybody, because this is a deficit also in all of our societies. Okay, thank you very much. Anybody else? Anything that you talked about? Please, grab a mic.
Yeah, thank you very much. I totally agree also with what was spoken before. But I think on also very basic things we should start. It is a lecture or a lesson of rights and responsibility. The first is the basic things. For example, it is something that we should have as a lesson or for people's, not just our newcomers, new Europeans who are growing up. It is rights and responsibility, being an active citizen, a responsible citizen in the society.
I very much agree with what you're saying, because in my work as a human rights education specialist, I believe that there has been a mistake done all throughout Europe, which is an exclusive focus on rights and responsibilities being left out of the story. And this is why nowadays you actually have people saying that it is their right to freedom of speech, while in fact they're engaging in potentially hate speech, but they are approaching it from the standpoint of human rights. freedom of expression. So yeah, I think that we do have some problems there. Please, please.
Just one thing.
Adam, and then we're giving on to Ondine from
So
virtual.
just one small thing I forgot to mention. I think it's very, very important to be aware of the power dynamics that comes within this education, because in many cases that I've seen, it serves into the narrative of the noble savage, that, you know, these people who are unaware of anything,
Absolutely.
and we need to teach them and enlighten them. And that all the time gives horrific results. So we really need to be careful with that.
And I think that it was mentioned already in the forum, but I would like to stress out that the countries that newcomers, or whatever the word is that Odd has mentioned that the statuses differ, are coming from, usually have far more developed community activism elements that actually we have currently in our democracies that are suffering from democratic deficit and low participation. So yeah, thank you for pointing that out. I'm giving the floor to my colleague who will tell us a little bit about the virtual elements.
Great, thank you. So we had a lot of good points online. So we had sort of what would be there would be around the civil economy, understanding Agenda 2030, which I thought was quite interesting. So the role of that, then gender equality, having conflict competence, understanding tolerance to ambiguity, understanding the democratic system, creating a culture of dialogue, or understanding the process of dialogue that helps you then understand inclusion and diversity.
Yeah, so definitely I echo this element of communication skills that also involve non-violent communication, but also actual advocacy and persuading and fighting for your rights in the process. Okay, Odd, and then Dima, and then we're moving on to our next session.
Yeah, to build on what was said by my colleague and you as well, when you asked this question, I was also just thinking I would start by exchanging with them and seeing where they come from, just because it's not only like a one-way thing, but also like starting to see what they think, what their vision of the word is, and trying to also be in an open-minded process of like, because integration should be conflictual and should be a matter of encounter and friction. Yeah, just starting from there and just like not being this like very dominant or like one-way like direction thing, which I think doesn't work.
No, not just does it not work, basically it's one of the most counterproductive, counter-effective principles of pedagogy is if you only focus on I'm downloading into you, I'm downloading into you, I'm the expert, you're the recipients of my wisdom, and we do not want this kind of teacher-centric education. We want critical pedagogy, because critical pedagogy is about exchange and everybody in the process being treated as equals. We had one more point from Dima.
We were talking about the hinderness which prevent women from participation in the decision-making process. We were wondering it will be good to look more in depth into the reason why are they not included in the decision-making process, and if they have like the legal background to be included, why are they not participating?
Can you please elaborate a little bit more? So you would include this as a discussion topic within the education, or would you? Okay.
Yes, in order to see what is the hindrance for them to be like, to have like more diversity in terms of gender, because many of them, they are coming from like, if we talk about newcomers, in the case of Germany, for instance, you see that there is a lot of initiative, but even though you see the participation of women is less in comparison to the male sectors, and to understand from the perspective of these participants, which is women, why are they not participating the way they wish to be?
Yeah, I absolutely agree that the gender dimension needs to be included. I would just like to use a word of caution just to make sure that we do not perpetuate the narratives of women being more passive or more I don't know, less active, etc., because I think that then sometimes we also kind of, I think, influence and, put like labels on people. So I remember Anila's presentation from first session, the lady who originally from Pakistan who came to the Netherlands. Remember how she was saying that she got active despite the fact that everybody was telling her, how are you so active? You're coming from a country where women don't necessarily get active. So in that sense, I think that this is the role model we can have. Sorry, final point, and then we're going to move on to the next part.
I just wanted to say that and this is something you mentioned yesterday as well, many of the issues that the migrants face, the rest of the population faces too. I mean, lack of participation is also very lower among, women of the, rest of the society. And it's also intersectional, I'm sorry to repeat that. It's not all women, it's those who might have less education, coming from lower socioeconomic background and issues like this. So I think it would be also very important, because what I fear is that when we design programs just for migrants, we also isolate them from the rest of the society. I'm not saying that they do not have specific needs, and those need to be attended to, but I mean, we also need to build bridges with the rest of the society and acknowledge that many of the problems that they face are also faced by the rest of the society, and this might be a way to build solidarities as well. So I just want to remind us to be cautious and not to also create isolation when we create specific programs. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, you're right. And yeah, we are echoing the fact that what we are sharing here are the actual problems. So in that sense, I think that we also want to advocate and emphasize that. Thank you for joining us briefly. Good luck with your interview. Thank you for coming back. Now, we're coming into a moment where we would like to have every single desk working quite intensively on answering these 5 questions. What I'm going to ask you is to one of you to come here, take a photo, and then to help the team answer the questions. Rosica will be kind enough to spread out some papers and some markers, because we would like to ask every single group to come up with different answers to these questions. I believe that you will be focusing most on question number 2 and 5, okay? These are about recommendations. What are the key recommendations we wish to issue from this particular working group? Now, Rosica and I will be kind of circulating to make sure you stick to time, but you in a group have 20 minutes to answer these 5 questions, but please do focus most on question 2 and question 5, okay? You're answering as a group, discuss it. Answer it as a group, but make sure that, for example, if Said has one comment and you don't necessarily agree, you have another one, keep both. So in that sense, we'll kind of have a group element. You will present it by sticking the responses, and you will get pieces of paper. So we will make sure that we have a collection of, basically, we're doing brainstorming right now, but in smaller groups. So, yes. Yeah, just give papers and pens, the markers. Just one small word of caution. When you're answering question number 2, are there any recommendations that are missing that you would want to add? Or number 5, what new policies, actions, initiatives would you recommend? Please make sure that you point out who is it that you believe should be doing the thing that you're advocating be done. So for example, 2 political parties, we recommend that, and then we know that what is your recommendation to this group. So make sure that you make it clear. If you're talking to the media, then you're talking to media. If you're talking to, you know, the government institutions at the local level, then that's who you're talking to. So make that clear. Thank you. Please make sure that you have points written on the papers. Thank you doubly. Okay, our time has expired. Okay, I know that you need the extra time. I'm sorry to be the one to be pushing you, but we can also continue adding things. So even if you don't have things written down, maybe you can present them and we'll make sure that Rosita or myself that we write things down and put it on the paper here. So which group is ready? I believe that this group has a lot of things written down. So if I could kindly ask Odd to come up here and just basically walk us through the things that you have written on the papers, and we will post them on the board. Grab the microphone.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
So yeah, if I could get everybody's attention, we have one group presenting, so if you can, yeah,
Perfect.
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Go for it.
Thank you very much. All right, so regarding the first question of the recommendations listed in the input paper, which ones are particularly relevant and have the greatest potential to succeed, we kind of focused on legal provision because we think it's really important in case of the basic things, since we're very like legislative societies, we just really need a law to kind of ensure. Also, it doesn't always ensure anything. But still, it's a first step. So the legal provision of both like the integration of migrants, and by this we mean like all like from undocumented people to asylum seekers to beneficiary of the subsequent subsidiary protection to refugees in the discussion, in the participation in policy making, and the legal provision of information, which comes before like integration. So that is in, as we were saying, in like curricula to integrate like not only like having accommodation services, social services, but have dedicated hours to information, to exchange regarding their rights, regarding the political ways of participation and how they can take part in the dialogue. So that would be the first.
Okay, your colleague is going to help you. Perfect. Or you're going to do it yourself. Okay, thank you.
It worked.
Okay, moving on.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so yeah, any recommendations missing that you want to add? We would add the necessity of creating spaces of encounter, mutualization of knowledge, practices, and dialogue between all stakeholders. So that would be missing for us. So
I would advise that you put it a little bit in the middle, because then I think that there's also the role that that religious and intercultural individuals and leaders can play here. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Common spaces.
So those common spaces. Which is that would
moving on.
Yeah, the roles again, I think. Oh yeah, also what is missing, it's not really a recommendation, but I think it's a key element. What is missing right now is the respect and guarantee of basic human and political rights in the first place.
Absolutely.
Which comes back to...
It goes the second,
yeah. What I was saying is like, you cannot like ask these people to join any gathering if they're not even sure they're going to be, like, going to be safe and respected. And their human dignity. Regarding the role of interreligious, religious leaders and faith-based groups in implementing these recommendations. Exactly.
Yeah.
They can have, according to us, an important role in countering stereotypes, hate speech, and challenging the mainstream social media and media narratives about refugees and migrant populations. And in that, they can favor respectful dialogue in like formal instances. So yeah, that's what I was saying, challenging social media. And also in very concrete example, which was given by a colleague from Italy, is trainings they do for journalists with refugees. Is it only refugees or like? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, refugees telling like journalists how to address issues
how to talk. Yeah, very good.
Exactly. So that's a very concrete example of what could be done and what is working apparently.
Thank you.
In what way can, I mean, this is also in the middle, in what way can interreligious and intercultural dialogue help with inclusion of migrants and refugees into policymaking and political processes? A very basic.
This was also here.
Yeah, it's kind of like the two are kind of overlapping. Religious places as places of information.
So basically use them as a way to disseminate the
where
information.
People like gather and so can have like answers to their questions. And then regarding the last one, new policies, actions, initiatives, we again like want to focus on the necessity for like actual formal councils of representation, advocacy, and a monitoring of all those recommendations.
Okay, thank you so much for this table. You've already put a lot of ideas on the board. I would like to ask the second group if you can go. I'm so sorry. You can continue still like writing things up later on. So, okay, then this group can come. See, they're so generous. Thank you so much, Dima. Come, Rosita is going to help you with the pins and everything. So, okay.
Yes.
If you have something similar that's already put on the list, you don't have to explain it, just put the same point there.
Yeah, for instance, in this one, we want just to include more representatives in terms of political and cultural orientation, like to educate them like culturally, all the stakeholders in order to bring them more together and to prevent a potential conflict. Yes.
So this is kind of point 2, because this is kind of missing, right?
I see. I mean, we have this feeling that a lot of them, they
are missing. They interrelate. Okay.
They interrelate with each other. Yes. Missing. I mean...
if you could turn to everybody as you speak so that they can listen to you.
Okay. I would say, for instance, we would more put weight in terms of support capacity building, skills, and all the soft skills as well in order to improve political participation.
So this is kind of
capacity building, not only by, not like top down, but also bottom up. Also like the refugee-led organization, they have to be part of this, as Syed yesterday has mentioned. This is, in our view, very important.
Perfect. Just go a bit up if you can.
Yes, we believe in order to make the newcomers or refugee or migrants more independent, they should be able to go to certain consultation. I mean, to be able to acquire the information, the needed information for their participation. Therefore, our recommendation is mapping out the relevant migrant organization and their expertise in order to help them navigate through the system.
Okay, and this mapping is provided for whom? Who do we give it to?
I would say from all stakeholders who are as well the migrants, as well as those who are
policymakers, media, everybody.
Yes. And maybe to translate it to different languages according to the big community.
Yeah, if I may build on this, I know in Athens, in Greece we have the Unhcr survival guide. I don't know if it's like, but it's like basically collecting all the information regarding organizations people can have access to in like a lot of languages, and we receive this at organization. I don't know if it helps, but
yes, but I believe in order to complement this, because migrants are very much connected and they have like certain tricks or certain certain way, and therefore we recommend like to have them included in this mapping. Yes.
Yeah. It's also about promoting the visibility of all of these organizations that are out there, because if we promote visibility, we promote inclusion.
Yeah, finally, in order to ensure a holistic representative, we wish to include more media representatives, this non-conventional media, because we were a little bit skeptical in using like mainstream media. So in order to be more political correctness, like not like the conventional, like the non-conventional media, to be representative, and especially, for instance, in many European countries, in the case of Germany, there are many independent journalists. They are newcomers, and they can have like a more different way of.
So to also have original voices.
Yes.
Yeah. Nice.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. This is again like a whole set of new elements on the board. You are now given the floor, and please bring your microphone with you. Thank you, Laura.
You're welcome.
And then Amjad, you'll be next.
So we didn't have time to answer all the questions, but at least we got to 1, 2, and then we jumped to 5. So let's see what the result is. So among the recommendations that we identified as more important, and more feasible as well, we would say ensuring migrant and refugee-led participation throughout the entire policymaking process in a representative way, to also try to find ways to make it a legal requirement, and to improve the sharing of information would be the recommendations that we have been focusing on mostly. As regards question number 2, are there any recommendations missing that we would want to add? We identified here narrative as one of the key important aspects that would need to be shifted in order to provide from an emergency-based discourse to a sustainable and permanent focus, so that not only focuses on the emergency of the situation, but also continues to involve refugees and migrants throughout the process. And we also had a discussion about how to make policymaking more inclusive, not only for refugees and migrants, but also for citizens alike. I mean, we don't think the policymaking process is inclusive at all in any way, so it also would need to include both. This goes to the second one. And then as regards new policies, actions, and initiatives, I feel like most of them are directed to policymakers. We don't have time to go deep into that discussion, but one related to what I was just mentioning now, to institutionalize channels of participation for migrants and refugees, which would be new ways of making them part of the conversation, but also to include them in the already existing structures and processes. So this would be important not only to create new ones, but also to include them in the former decision-making processes, to involve them in a way that does not only make them participants, but also that they can co-create policy together. And lastly, the importance of investing in two-way capacity building, both for refugees and migrants to understand better the policymaking process, but also for policymakers to understand how to involve them and the importance of involving them in the process since the early beginning. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for these contributions, and also I like the fact that you kind of again pointed out the fact that policy-making processes are not inclusive, period. And in that sense, I think many of the policies we are suffering currently, we are suffering because when they were being designed, they didn't actually consult the individuals who were professionals in that given field. So, for example, healthcare policies being designed without doctors and hospital administrators, educational system policies being designed without teachers taking part. So I think that we have that, unfortunately, as a status quo in some of the fields. I'm giving now the floor to Amjad, who is going to share some of the ideas that he had, as well as that were communicated by the virtual participants.
Great, thank you. So there was one actual, which I found quite specific, but actually quite interesting, which was the financing of high or postgraduate education of migrants and refugees in politics. Sorry. So the idea of really
So subsidizing or
of financing. So you know, either to kind of create space for internships and equal representation onwards. It could be scholarships. It could be sort of supporting more migrants and refugees getting into sort of politics, in terms of improving the level and quality of contribution into policymaking. And there's a example from the Pontifical University in Rome, which sort of offers very specific programs targeting refugees and migrants to do that. So I found that quite specific. And then there was one where I was discussing with the online colleagues, which is how do we use religious leaders and faith-based organizations to offer those spaces more for engagement? So not just around talking on issues around politics or talking on issues around local, access to local services or whatever, but also facilitating spaces for mentoring, for engagement with communities. So let the community themselves be part of that process to help to accommodate or bring in the refugees and migrants, but using the faith-based spaces to do that.
I think we already had something a little bit in the beginning already mentioned, but I like the fact that we have it reiterated. So I think it's here, spaces.
And then there's another one which sort of adds to that, which is, again, how do we use existing communities, the second, third generation, how are they engaged? Because most of the time, they're not engaged, right? So when migrants come in, the local authorities don't necessarily engage them that much in helping them to kind of welcome new communities in. So they often do it by themselves in terms of local charities. So there should be a much more engaged process.
So have the local governments more on board.
Local governments and the local community. So, for example, if you have an Afghani community already in a city or a town, how are you engaging them to be the bridge with the new migrants? Involving them and then because they've also gone through that process, right? Often they will do it because they have a social welfare system.
And they can help improve the process.
They can help improve the process, right? So that's it.
Thank you. Okay, thank you so much. Okay, so I very much thank you for all of your contributions. If you still feel like mulling over some ideas, feel free to do that. I would like you to have a full-fledged break of half an hour, because when we come back, we'll be doing a little bit of a democratic exercise, meaning we'll be voting, because just to kind of, the exercise is that each group has to come out with 3 recommendations. So we will choose as a group which 3 we want to put forward. That doesn't mean that the others are being discarded. Everything is going into the reports from each track, and everything is being given to KAICIID, who will then be finalizing all over the content that we here came up with. So in that sense, we'll be doing a little bit of elections or voting when we come back, but it doesn't mean that the other ideas are less valuable or that they will be forgotten. Thank you so much for all of your inputs, and please have a nice break. I believe it's upstairs in front of the plenary room, and then please come back in half an hour. Thank you very much. You clap for yourselves. You did a great job.